Imagine this. You've waited your entire life for a child. Decades. You've prayed, cried, maybe even given up hope at some point. Then, miraculously, God gives you a son, a promised son. Your whole world shifts. And just when you're settling into joy, God says, "Now give him back to me." What would you do? This isn't just some ancient story in dusty scrolls. This is the emotional, heart-wrenching, controversial moment when God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. Yeah, that story. The one that's made people scratch their heads, question God's motives, and ask, what kind of test is this? And honestly, that's fair. It's a lot. Now let's roll it back a bit. Abraham, known as the father of faith, wasn't new to hearing from God. He had left his homeland, wandered into unknown territory, trusted God through thick and thin. But one thing had been missing, a son. And not just any son, a son through whom a great nation would come. God promised it. Time passed. A lot of time. Abraham and Sarah got older, then older, and when it seemed laughably impossible, God made good on his word. Isaac was born, their miracle baby. You could imagine the laughter, the tears, the joy of finally holding that promise in your arms. It's the kind of joy that makes you protective. And then one day, out of nowhere, God speaks. Abraham, and Abraham, ever ready, says, "Here I am." God doesn't start with small talk. He goes straight to the unthinkable. Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering. Wait, what? There's no recorded outburst. No questions. No begging. Just obedience. Early the next morning, Abraham loads up his donkey, chops wood, gathers 2 servants and Isaac, and sets out. 3 days of travel. 3 days of holding that command in his heart. Can you imagine the silence during that journey? On the 3rd day, Abraham sees the mountain. He tells the servants to stay behind, then says something that hits different. "We will worship and we will come back." Hold up. We? Is that faith speaking? Hope? Denial? Or does Abraham know something we don't? Isaac carries the wood. Abraham carries the fire and knife. And then Isaac asks a question that could shatter a father's heart. "Dad, we got the fire and wood, but where's the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham replies, "God will provide." Simple, mysterious, heavy. They reach the spot. Abraham builds the altar. He arranges the wood. Then he binds Isaac and places him on the altar. It's hard to even read that part without flinching. Isaac's no toddler. He's old enough to resist, to fight back, but there's no struggle recorded, only trust. Then comes the moment. Abraham raises a knife, and just before it comes down, an angel of the Lord calls out, "Abraham, Abraham." And again, Abraham says, "Here I am." The angel says, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know you fear God." It was a test, a divine test of obedience, trust, and surrender. And then, bam, a ram caught in a thicket. Abraham looks up and offers it instead. The altar is used, but the child is spared. Abraham names the place, "The Lord will provide." And that name sticks, not just for the mountain, but for all of us who've ever wondered if God sees, if he'll show up. He does. But let's pause and ask the hard question. Why would God even ask this? I mean, isn't this dramatic? Cruel? Here's the truth. God never intended for Isaac to die. This was about revealing Abraham's heart and revealing something even deeper about God's own heart. This story is a shadow, a foreshadowing of something greater. Centuries later, another father would willingly sacrifice his only son. But this time, there would be no ram in the thicket, no angel to stop the blade. On a hill not far from Moriah, God would do what he didn't require Abraham to do. Jesus would carry the wood, his cross. He would willingly climb the hill, and there would be no last-minute substitute, because he was the substitute. For us, for our sin. That's the real weight behind Abraham and Isaac's story. So yes, it's controversial. It stirs emotions. It challenges our understanding of God. But it also reveals a truth so deep, so profound that love sometimes requires surrender. That faith is more than belief. It's obedience, even when we don't understand. And let's not forget Isaac, his faith, his trust in his father, and God. That moment, laying on the altar, wasn't just about Abraham's obedience. It was about Isaac's surrender too. This wasn't a one-sided act. It was a shared faith moment between Father, Son, and God. After that day, God reaffirms his promise to Abraham, descendants like the stars, blessings to all nations through a seed. This moment becomes a spiritual landmark in history, not because a child was nearly sacrificed, but because God's provision became visible. And you know what? We all have Isaac moments. Moments where God asks us to surrender what's most precious, not because he wants to take from us, but because he wants to test, refine, and ultimately bless us beyond what we imagine. The story of Abraham and Isaac isn't just ancient history. It's a mirror. It asks us, what are you holding on to so tightly that you wouldn't trust God with it? And what if the blessing isn't in the holding, but in the laying down? And if you've ever been there where you felt like God was asking too much, know this: he sees, he provides, sometimes at the last second, but never too late. Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. That's not just a name, it's a promise. So next time you hear the story of Abraham and Isaac, don't just think of it as a test. See the bigger picture, the foreshadowing, the layers of love and sacrifice that point straight to the cross. It's not just about what God asked, it's about what God gave.